Taeho stood before the holographic display, his eyes scanning the ancient symbols that floated in the dim light of the archive room. He had spent 3 years studying the ruins of dead civilizations, but this discovery was different. The symbols were human, a species that had been extinct for over 300 years. Every school child in the Galactic Concord knew the story of Earth. The humans had been a young, aggressive species that destroyed themselves in some terrible catastrophe. Their planet was quarantined, surrounded by warning beacons that no one bothered to read anymore. But these symbols told a different story. Taeho had found them buried in the ruins of a precursor site, a civilization far older than the Concord itself. The text suggested that humans had been in contact with the precursors, that they had shared knowledge and technology. This should have been impossible. According to every historical record, humans barely made it past their own solar system before they vanished. "You're wasting your time with human mythology," Hyejin said as she entered the room. She was Taeho's mentor, a woman who had studied more extinct species than anyone else in the Concord. Her scales shimmered in the blue light, marking her as a Tavarian like himself. Humans were primitive. "Whatever you found is probably their own propaganda." Taeho turned to face her, his crest rising slightly in excitement. "But what if it's not? What if the records are wrong? The precursors don't lie in their monuments. They document what they witness." Hyejin moved closer to the display, her eyes narrowing as she read the symbols. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she touched the controls, expanding the text to show more context. "These speak of sleeping guardians," she said quietly, "of those who answer when called." The precursors were warning their descendants about something. "About humans," Taeho said. "Perhaps." Hyejin's voice was careful now. "Or perhaps about something the humans protected. Something dangerous enough that the precursors felt the need to leave warnings." Taeho saved the data to his personal drive and looked at his mentor. "I want to go to Earth. I want to see the warnings for myself." Hyejin laughed, a sharp sound that echoed in the small room. "Earth is quarantined. No one goes there. The Concord made that law 200 years ago after the last expedition disappeared." "The last expedition went to the surface," Taeho argued. "I just want to study the orbital beacons. We can stay in space, analyze the warnings, and leave. It would only take a few weeks." "And who would captain such a foolish mission?" Hyejin asked. Taeho smiled. "I know someone who owes me a favor." 3 weeks later, Taeho stood on the bridge of the Stellar Compass, a small research vessel that had seen better days. Captain Jinwoo sat in the command chair, his fur bristling slightly as he watched the view screen. Jinwoo was a Felician, a species known for their caution and practicality. He had agreed to this journey only because Taeho had once saved his ship from pirates in the outer reaches. "I must be insane," Jinwoo muttered as they approached Earth's solar system. "If the Concord finds out we're here, they'll revoke my license and probably throw us all in prison." "They won't find out," Taeho assured him. "We're not broadcasting, and this system is too remote for regular patrols. We'll be in and out before anyone notices." Yuna, the communications officer, looked up from her station. She was young for her species, barely past her first molt. Her antenna twitched nervously as she spoke. "Captain, I'm picking up the beacon signals. They're still active after all these centuries." "Put them on speakers," Jinwoo ordered. The bridge filled with sound, multiple voices speaking in different tones and languages, all of them human. The translation system struggled for a moment before finding patterns it recognized. The words came through clearly, repeated over and over in a loop that must have been playing for hundreds of years. "Turn back. Do not disturb what sleeps. Do not test what waits. This is your only warning. Turn back." The crew fell silent. There was something in those voices, something that made Taeho's skin prickle. The humans who had recorded these warnings hadn't sounded afraid. They had sounded certain, absolute. "Well, that's welcoming," Jinwoo said dryly. "Should we turn back?" Taeho moved to the science station and began analyzing the beacon signals. "These aren't automated recordings. The beacons are actively powered, drawing energy from somewhere. After 300 years, they should have failed unless something is maintaining them." Hyejin, who had insisted on joining the expedition despite her earlier skepticism, studied the data flowing across her screen. "The power signatures are unlike anything I've seen. It's not fusion, not antimatter. The energy just appears to be there, constant and unlimited. Humans didn't have that technology," Yuna said. "At least not according to any records." "Maybe the records are wrong," Taeho replied. Jinwoo ordered the ship closer, keeping well outside the quarantine boundary, but close enough for detailed scans. Earth appeared on the view screen, a blue and green jewel hanging in the darkness of space. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. There were no signs of the catastrophe that supposedly killed humanity. No radiation, no debris fields, no scarring on the surface. This doesn't make sense, Hyejin said. If humans destroyed themselves in a war or environmental collapse, where's the evidence? The planet looks pristine. Daeho felt a chill run through his body. He pulled up orbital scans from the Concord's last expedition, the one that had disappeared. The images showed abandoned cities, empty streets, buildings intact and undamaged. It looked like every human had simply vanished one day, leaving everything behind. There, Yuna said, pointing to her screen. I'm detecting faint energy signatures on the surface. They match the beacons. Whatever power source is keeping the warnings active is also active on Earth itself. Jinwoo's ears flattened against his head, a sign of concern in his species. I don't like this. We should document what we've found and leave. We can send the data to the Concord Council and let them decide what to do. But Daeho was already planning the next step. We need to send probes to the surface. Just a few to gather more data. We've come all this way. We can't leave without answers. Before Jinwoo could argue, the ship's alarms blared. Yuna's antenna shot straight up in alarm. Captain, we're being scanned. Something just pinged our hull with an active sensor sweep. From where? Jinwoo demanded. Yuna's hands moved frantically across her controls. I don't know. The scan came from everywhere at once. It's like the entire planet just looked at us. The bridge fell silent again. On the view screen, Earth continued to spin peacefully, beautiful and seemingly empty. But now Daeho understood the truth. The planet wasn't dead. It was watching. And it had been watching all along. The warnings began to play again, louder now, more insistent. Turn back. Do not disturb what sleeps. Do not test what waits. Daeho stared at the planet and whispered, We're too late. We already disturbed it. Jinwoo made his decision quickly. Despite the mysterious scan, he authorized the deployment of 3 survey probes to Earth's surface. They were small devices, designed to gather data without causing any damage. If something on Earth was still active, he reasoned, then they needed to know what it was. The Concord Council might call him a fool, but they couldn't argue with solid scientific evidence. Mirai, the ship's biologist, monitored the probes as they entered Earth's atmosphere. She was a careful scientist who trusted data more than theories. Her people, the Aquarians, were known for their logical minds and attention to detail. She watched the atmospheric readings with growing confusion. The air's clean, she reported. No pollutants, no radiation, no signs of industrial collapse. It's almost too perfect. The first probe landed in what the old human maps called Seoul. The images it sent back showed streets lined with buildings that stood intact and undamaged. Vehicles sat parked along the roads as if their owners had just stepped away. Plants grew in careful gardens, not wild and overgrown, but maintained. It was as if the city was waiting for people to return. This is impossible, Hyejin said, studying the images. Cities don't maintain themselves. Those plants should have died or gone wild centuries ago. The buildings should show weather damage, but everything looks like it was abandoned yesterday. Taeyang, the ship's security chief, stood near the weapons console. He was a veteran of border conflicts, a soldier who had seen combat against pirates and raiders. His species, the Draconians, had built the Concord's military might. But even he looked uneasy as he watched the probe data. I've seen dead worlds before. They don't look like this. Something is maintaining that city. The second probe landed in what humans had called New York. It found the same thing. Empty streets, intact buildings, and an eerie sense of preservation. The probe's sensors detected faint energy readings beneath the city, deep underground. Mirai isolated the signature and tried to analyze it. There's a structure down there, she said. Something massive buried under the entire city. The energy readings are similar to the beacons but much stronger. Daeho felt his excitement growing despite his fear. Deploy the third probe over the ocean. If there's something under the cities, maybe there's something under the water too. The third probe confirmed his suspicion. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, buried in the deepest trenches, were structures that dwarfed anything the Concord had ever built. They stretched for hundreds of kilometers, all of them generating the same mysterious energy signature. What were the humans building? Yuna whispered. Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life. But it wasn't coming from the Concord. The signal originated from Earth itself. Jinwoo stared at the communications panel in disbelief. That's impossible. There's no one down there. But the signal was clear and strong. It was broadcasting on conquered standard frequencies, which should have been impossible for humans to know. The message was simple and direct. Unknown vessel in orbit. Identify yourself. The crew looked at each other in shock. Taeyang's hand moved to his weapon controls, but Jinwoo stopped him with a gesture. The captain's voice was steady as he responded. This is the research vessel Stellar Compass out of the Tavarian Science Institute. We mean no harm. We're here to study the historical sites. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again, calm and unhurried. You were warned to turn back. You chose to ignore the warnings. Why? Daeho stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. We found evidence that humans were more advanced than our records indicate. We came to learn the truth. We sent probes to gather information, nothing more. Another pause, longer this time. Then the voice said something that made everyone's blood run cold. Stand by. Your presence has been noted. A decision will be made regarding your fate. The transmission ended. The bridge of the stellar compass erupted in panicked voices. Yuna checked her sensors frantically. Taeyang powered up the ship's defensive systems. Hijin was already calculating jump coordinates for a quick escape, but Jinwoo held up his hand for silence. We need to think clearly. If something on Earth wanted to destroy us, it could have done so already. Instead, it's talking to us. That means we have a chance. A chance at what? Taeyang growled. We violated a quarantine. We ignored warnings, and now we've alerted something that's been hiding down there for 300 years. Before Jinwoo could respond, Yuna screamed. Captain, we have a problem. I'm detecting a conquered military transponder entering the system. It's the patrol cruiser Vigilant Dawn. The situation had just become much worse. Someone had reported their illegal expedition, and now a conquered warship was coming to arrest them. But that wasn't the worst part. The Vigilant Dawn was a military vessel with weapons designed to enforce the conquered's laws. If they saw Earth as a threat, they might attack. Can we jump to hyperspace? Jinwoo asked. His navigator shook his head. Not for another 10 minutes. We're too close to Earth's gravity well. If we try to jump now, we'll tear the ship apart. Daeho grabbed the captain's arm. We need to warn them. If the Vigilant Dawn comes in firing, whatever is on Earth might respond. We could start a war by accident. Jinwoo tried to contact the approaching ship, but they weren't responding to hails. The military vessel was coming in fast, its weapons already charging. Daeho could see the tactical display showing the cruiser's approach vector. They would be in firing range within minutes. This is bad, Taeyang said, which was the closest he ever came to admitting fear. Then something happened that none of them could explain. Every system on Earth activated at once. The probes on the surface registered massive power surges. The structures beneath the cities and oceans began generating energy on a scale that broke the stellar compass's sensors. The planet went from seemingly dead to blazing with power in less than a second. The view screen became almost too bright to look at. Earth was glowing, radiating energy across every spectrum. The warning beacons stopped their recorded messages and began broadcasting something new. Attention all vessels. This is Earth. We are aware of your presence. We have been aware since you entered this system. We mean you no harm, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. Identify your intentions immediately. The voice was calm, but there was something underneath it. A promise. A certainty that whoever was speaking had the power to back up their words. The Vigilant Dawn finally responded to hails. Its captain, a Draconian named Velcor, sounded shaken. This is conquered military vessel, Vigilant Dawn. We are here to enforce quarantine protocols. The research vessel, Stellar Compass, is in violation of conquered law. This is Earth, the voice responded. The vessel you are pursuing is under our protection. They arrived seeking knowledge, not conflict. We suggest you power down your weapons and open a dialogue. Velcor's response was sharp. Earth is a dead world. It has no authority to offer protection. This is a conquered matter. What happened next would be talked about for centuries. Every light on Earth's surface came on simultaneously. Every city, every structure, every building blazed with illumination. From orbit, the planet looked like a star, and then a message appeared on every screen in both ships, written in perfect conquered standard. We are not dead. We never were. We were waiting. You have our attention now. State your purpose or leave. You have 60 seconds to decide. Deho stared at the message, his mind trying to process what he was seeing. Humanity hadn't died out. They had been here all along, watching, waiting. And now they had revealed themselves. The question was, what would they do next? The 60 seconds felt like an eternity. Deho watched the countdown on his screen, his heart's beating rapidly in his chest. The Vigilant Dawn had gone silent, its captain probably arguing with his superiors about what to do. The Stellar Compass crew simply waited, knowing their fate was no longer in their own hands. When the timer reached 0, something impossible happened. A human appeared on the bridge. Yuna screamed. Taeyang drew his weapon. Yijin stumbled backward, her scales flashing in alarm. But the human simply stood there, calm and unbothered by their panic. She was an elderly woman by human standards, with gray hair and lines on her face that spoke of many years. But her eyes were bright and alert, and she carried herself with quiet confidence. "My name is Sora," she said in perfect Tavarian. Then she switched to Felician, then Aquarian, then Draconian, greeting each crew member in their own language. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance. We thought it best to speak face to face." Jinwoo found his voice first. "How did you get on my ship?" "We have shields, sensors, security systems. Nothing should be able to beam onto this vessel." Sora smiled gently. "Your technology is very good for your level of development. But humanity moved beyond such limitations a long time ago. I'm not really here, not physically. What you see is a projection, created by manipulating the light and sound around you. It's easier than actually traveling, and it lets me talk to you without causing alarm." "Too late for that," Taeyang muttered. But he lowered his weapon. Deho stepped forward, his scientific mind already racing with questions. "You said humanity moved beyond limitations. What does that mean? What happened to your people?" Sora's expression became thoughtful. "That's a long story. The short version is that about 400 years ago, we reached a point in our development that you might call a singularity. We learned to manipulate matter and energy at fundamental levels. We solved aging, disease, scarcity. We could have spread across the galaxy, claimed thousands of worlds. But we chose not to. Why?" Yejin asked. "Every species expands. It's the natural order." "Because we learned something important," Sora said. "We learned that wisdom is more valuable than territory. We had watched other species rise and fall. We had seen the precursors destroy themselves despite their great knowledge. We decided to step back, to observe, to wait until we truly understood our place in the universe." Before anyone could respond, another voice cut through the bridge. It was Velcor from the Vigilant Dawn, and he sounded furious. "Unknown entity claiming to be human. You will surrender immediately. This system is under conquered jurisdiction. You have no legal authority here." Sora sighed. "Some species learn slower than others." She waved her hand, and suddenly her projection appeared on the bridge of the Vigilant Dawn as well. The crew of the Stellar Compass could see it on their view screen. Velcor and his officers jumped back in surprise. "Captain Velcor," Sora said calmly, "your species, the Draconians, are proud warriors. You believe strength is measured in weapons and ships, but true strength is having the power to destroy and choosing not to use it. Humanity has been watching the Concord for 300 years. We know everything about you. Your wars, your politics, your technology. We could have interfered at any time. We chose peace instead." Velcor's face twisted in anger. "You speak of peace while hiding like cowards. The Conquered rules this galaxy because we have the courage to fight for what we believe in." "And what do you believe in?" Sora asked. "Expansion, control. The Conquered exist because dozens of species submitted to draconian military might. That's not civilization. That's conquest with a prettier name." A new figure appeared beside Sora. This one was younger, a woman who looked barely past her 20s. She wore clothing that seemed to shift colors as she moved. Her presence made Sora seem almost ordinary by comparison. There was something about her that made everyone instinctively step back. "My name is Myung," the new arrival said. "I speak for humanity in matters of diplomacy. Captain Velcor, your species has an expression. Never corner a predator. You should have heeded that wisdom." Velcor raised his crest in challenge. "Are you threatening us?" "No," Myung said simply. "I'm stating facts. You entered this system with weapons charged. You ignored our warnings. You assumed that because you saw an empty planet, you could claim authority here. That was a mistake." On the view screen, Deho and his crew watched as the Vigilant Dawn powered up its weapons. Velcor's voice came through clearly. "I have orders to enforce Conquered law. If you resist, I'm authorized to use force." "Captain, no!" Deho shouted into the communication channel.
You don't understand what you're dealing with.
But it was too late. Velcor gave the order to fire a warning shot, targeting one of Earth's orbital platforms. The weapons officer on the Vigilant Dawn activated the main plasma cannon, a weapon capable of destroying a small moon. The blast shot forward, a bolt of superheated matter racing toward Earth. The crew of the Stellar Compass watched in horror, certain they were about to witness the start of a war. But the plasma bolt never reached its target. It simply stopped in mid-space, frozen as if time itself had paused. Then, without any visible cause, the bolt ceased to exist. It didn't explode or dissipate. It just stopped being. What did you do? Velcor demanded. Myung's voice was sad, like a teacher disappointed in a student. We didn't do anything. The universe did. You see, we don't fight with weapons anymore. We learn to ask reality politely to work with us. And reality tends to listen. Sora turned to address both ships. Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs because we knew this would happen. Young species need to make mistakes, need to test boundaries. We left warnings because we hoped you would be wise enough to listen. But you weren't. So now we must show you why we left those warnings. Admiral Cathrex's voice suddenly cut through all channels. He was the supreme military commander of the conquered fleet, a draconian who had fought in 100 battles. His reputation was legendary. This is Admiral Cathrex of the Concord military. I am en route to your position with 200 warships. You have 1 hour to surrender or we will consider you hostile. Myung and Sora exchanged glances. Then Myung spoke, her voice carrying across space to reach the approaching fleet. Admiral, we respect your service to your people, but you are making a terrible mistake. We do not wish to fight. We only wish to be left alone. Cathrex laughed, a harsh sound full of contempt. You expect me to fear a dead world? I have enough firepower to crack a planet. Your warnings mean nothing to me. They should, Sora said quietly. Myung turned to Jinwoo. Captain, you and your crew have a choice. You can return home now and warn the Concord what's coming, or you can stay and witness what happens when fear meets truth. Either way, you won't be harmed. You came seeking knowledge, not war. We respect that. Deho looked at Jinwoo, then at Hyejin. His mentor's face was pale with fear, but her eyes were bright with curiosity. She wanted to know, to understand, and so did he. We'll stay, Jinwoo said, his voice barely above a whisper. Myung nodded. Then prepare yourselves. In 1 hour, the Concord will learn why humanity left warnings, and why some warnings should never be ignored. The 2 human projections vanished, leaving the crew alone with their thoughts and their fear. On the view screen, Earth continued to glow with power, and somewhere in the darkness of space, 200 warships rushed toward a confrontation that would change the galaxy forever. Deho stared at the planet and realized that his search for truth was about to give him more answers than he ever wanted to know. The hour passed too quickly. The Concord fleet emerged from hyperspace like a wall of steel and fury. 200 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in one place. Admiral Cathrex had brought vessels from every major species in the Concord. Draconian battleships bristled with weapons. Felician carriers launched waves of fighters. Aquarian cruisers powered up their massive energy shields. Even the peaceful Tavarian species had contributed their most advanced science vessels. Daiho watched it all from the bridge of the Stellar Compass, feeling small and helpless. Jinwoo had moved their ship to a safe distance, far enough to observe but not close enough to be caught in whatever was about to happen. The captain's fur was standing on end, his instincts screaming at him to run, but like Daiho, like all of them, he needed to see. This is madness, Hyejin whispered. That fleet could destroy 100 worlds. What can Earth possibly do against it? Before anyone could answer, Sora appeared on the bridge again. She was accompanied by 2 new humans. One was a man who introduced himself as Jisoo, wearing what looked like military attire. The other was a scientist named Youngho, carrying a device that looked like a simple tablet. We're offering you a choice, Sora said. You can stay here and watch from your ship, or you can come to Earth's surface and see everything more clearly. We promise your safety either way. Taiyang immediately shook his head. That's a trap. You'll take us hostage. Jisoo smiled, and it wasn't a cruel expression but rather one of understanding. If we wanted hostages, Security Chief, we would already have them. You cannot stop us from taking you. The fact that you're still free should tell you something about our intentions. Hyejin stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. I want to go. If this is really humanity's last stand, then someone should witness it and record the truth. Deho nodded. I'm going too. Jinwoo looked at his crew, then sighed. Fine, but if we die, I'm haunting all of you. He turned to Yuna. Keep the ship safe. If something goes wrong, jump to hyperspace and get this data back to the Concord. Yuna's antenna drooped with worry, but she nodded. Be careful, Captain. The transition to Earth's surface was instant and disorienting. One moment they were on the bridge, the next they stood in a vast room with windows overlooking the planet's surface. They were in what Young-ho called an observation center, located in the city that humans had named Geneva. How did you do that? Daeho gasped. Teleportation isn't possible. The energy requirements alone would be impossible with your understanding of physics, Young-ho finished. But humanity learned that reality is more flexible than your species believes. We don't teleport in the way you think. We simply convinced the universe that you were already here. Hyejin's mind was racing, trying to understand. That's not science. That's like magic. Any sufficiently advanced technology looks like magic, Young-ho quoted. A human named Clark said that thousands of years ago. We've simply taken it to its logical conclusion. Above them, visible through the transparent ceiling, the Concorde fleet was arranging itself into attack formation. Admiral Cathrex's voice boomed across all frequencies. Attention, Earth. This is your final warning. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. If you refuse, we will open fire. Jisoo walked to a control panel and made some adjustments. Suddenly, the observation center's walls became transparent, showing them a view of space itself. They could see the conquered fleet in perfect detail. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical position. Your admiral is a good strategist, Jisoo noted. He's positioned his ships to provide overlapping fields of fire. If this were a normal battle, it would be an excellent formation. What do you mean if it were normal? Jinwoo asked. Before Jisoo could answer, Cathrex gave the order to attack. The Concorde fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, energy beams, kinetic projectiles, enough firepower to sterilize a planet's surface a dozen times over. The weapons converged on Earth from 200 different directions. Daeho closed his eyes, unable to watch what he thought would be Earth's destruction. But nothing happened. No explosions, no impacts, no sound at all. He opened his eyes to see something impossible. Every single weapon had stopped. Plasma bolts hung frozen in space like insects in amber. Missiles drifted motionless as if someone had pressed a pause button on reality. Energy beams simply ended in midair, going nowhere. Kinetic projectiles had ceased all movement, floating harmlessly among the stars. What's happening? Hyejin breathed. Young-ho tapped his tablet, bringing up streams of data. Earth's defense system is analyzing each threat and responding appropriately. We're not blocking the attacks. We're asking them politely to stop existing, and they're agreeing. That's impossible, Taiyang said. You can't just make matter disappear. We're not making it disappear, Young-ho explained patiently. We're converting it back to energy and redistributing that energy across the universe. The atoms that made up those weapons are now part of 1,000 different stars. It's quite elegant, really. The conquered fleet tried again, and again. Wave after wave of attacks using every weapon in their arsenal. Nuclear warheads that could crack continents simply blinked out of existence. Antimatter bombs that should have caused explosions visible from light years away just stopped being. Nothing reached Earth. Nothing even came close. Admiral Cathrex's voice now carried a note of fear beneath the anger. What are you? What kind of monsters are you? Myung's voice responded, appearing on every ship's communication system simultaneously. We're not monsters, Admiral. We're what your species might become. Given enough time and wisdom, we chose not to fight. We chose not to conquer. We chose to grow instead. And now you see the result. Then something new appeared in space. 12 ships emerged from nowhere, sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around themselves. They were beautiful in a way that made the Concorde warships look crude and primitive. These were human ships, the first anyone outside Earth had seen in 300 years. Hana's voice came through clearly. She was the captain of the lead vessel. Admiral Cathrex, your weapons cannot harm us. Your shields cannot stop us. We could disable your entire fleet in minutes if we wished. But we don't wish to harm you. We want you to understand. Understand what? Cathrex demanded. That violence is not strength. That wisdom is not weakness. That the greatest power is having the ability to destroy and choosing not to use it. One of the human ships moved forward. It was a gentle movement, almost lazy. But wherever it passed, conquered vessels went dark. Their power systems failed. Their weapons stopped responding. Their life support switched to backup systems. The ship didn't fire a single weapon. It just moved, and reality itself seemed to obey its will. In 14 minutes, the entire Concorde fleet was floating helpless in space. Not destroyed, not damaged, just powerless. 200 warships, the pride of galactic civilization, reduced to drifting metal shells. Jisoo turned to Daiho and his companions. Do you understand now? Humanity could have done this at any time in the past 300 years. We could have conquered the conquered, claimed the galaxy, ruled over all of you. But we didn't. Because true power isn't about control. It's about choice. Cathrex's voice came through one final time, transmitted on emergency backup systems. You've won. What happens now? Hana's response was gentle but firm. Now you go home. You tell your people what happened here. You explain that Earth is not a dead world, not a prize to be claimed, not a mystery to be solved. We are here, we are watching, and we will defend ourselves if necessary, but we would rather be left alone. The human ships began restoring power to the conquered vessels one by one. Life support came back online. Emergency systems activated, but the weapons remained dead, their systems permanently disabled by technology that made them obsolete. You're letting us go? Cathrex asked, disbelief clear in his voice. Of course, Myung said. You attacked us out of ignorance, not malice. We won't punish you for not knowing what we are, but now you know. Now all of you know, and you can choose how to respond to that knowledge. Sora looked at Daiho. You came here seeking truth, young scholar. Now you have it. Humanity isn't extinct. We never were. We were just waiting for the rest of the galaxy to grow up. We're still waiting. As the Concorde fleet began its retreat, limping home with their pride shattered and their weapons useless, Daiho realized something profound. Earth hadn't answered the Concorde's attack with matching violence. They had answered with a lesson, and that lesson would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The journey back to conquered space felt longer than the journey out. The stellar compass traveled alongside the remnants of Admiral Cathrex's fleet, watching as 200 once proud warships limped home with disabled weapons and shattered pride. No one spoke much during those days. What was there to say? They had witnessed something that changed everything they thought they knew about the universe. Daiho spent his time reviewing the recordings from Earth, trying to understand what he had seen. The data made no sense according to any known science. Humanity had somehow learned to manipulate reality itself, to convince the universe to work with them rather than against them. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. When they finally reached the conquered central system, chaos was waiting for them. News of the failed attack had spread quickly. Some species were calling for immediate war, demanding that the full might of galactic civilization be brought to bear against Earth. Others were terrified, arguing that humanity should be appeased at all costs. The Conquered Council was in emergency session, unable to agree on anything. Daiho and his crew were brought before the council to give testimony. The chamber was vast, filled with representatives from 47 species. At the center sat the High Council, leaders of the most powerful civilizations in known space. Admiral Cathrex was already there, his crest drooping in shame as he admitted what had happened. Hyojin spoke first, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Honored council members, we went to Earth seeking knowledge. What we found was a civilization so far beyond us that comparison is meaningless. Humanity didn't destroy our fleet. They didn't need to. They simply made our weapons stop working. A Felician counselor stood, his fur bristling with agitation. This is unacceptable. No single species should have such power. We must find a way to counter their technology, to level the field. You can't, Daiho said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He stood, his legs shaking slightly, but his voice grew stronger. Humanity isn't using technology in the way we understand it. They've moved beyond machines and computers. They work with fundamental forces that we can barely detect, let alone understand. Trying to fight them would be like a child with a stick challenging a thunderstorm. A draconian warrior slammed his fist on the table. Then we are slaves. If they have such power, what's to stop them from conquering us all? Nothing, Jinwoo said. Nothing stops them except their own choice. And that's the point you're all missing. Humanity had 300 years to conquer the Concorde. They could have done it at any time, but they didn't. They withdrew instead. They chose peace. The chamber erupted in argument. Species shouted at each other, accusations flying back and forth. Some called for weapons research. Others demanded diplomatic missions. A few suggested abandoning all exploration near Earth's system. The chaos continued until a new voice cut through it all. Perhaps you should ask us directly. Sora appeared in the center of the chamber, her projection standing calmly among the shouting politicians. The room fell silent instantly. Beside her stood Myung, looking as young and patient as she had during the confrontation. "We heard you were having trouble deciding what to do about us," Myung said with a slight smile, "so we thought we'd save you the difficulty and explain our position clearly." The head of the council, an ancient Aquarian named Delmar, found his voice first. You can just appear here? In the heart of conquered space? "We can appear anywhere we choose," Sora confirmed. "We have been watching your deliberations. We know what each of you is thinking, what each faction wants. We know your military secrets, your scientific developments, your political schemes. We know everything because we've been paying attention for 300 years. The implications of that statement sent ripples of fear through the chamber. If humanity could appear anywhere, hear anything, see everything, then the conquered had no secrets. They were completely exposed. "What do you want from us?" Delmar asked. Myung's expression became serious. "We want nothing from you. That's what you need to understand. We don't want your resources, your territory, your submission, or your cooperation. We want to be left alone. We withdrew from galactic civilization because we saw where it was heading. Constant expansion, endless competition. Species fighting over scraps while pretending it's about honor or security. And what gives you the right to judge us?" a draconian counselor demanded. "Experience," Sora answered. "We went through the same stages you're going through now. We fought wars, conquered territories, built empires, and we learned that none of it mattered. True advancement comes from within, not from without. We achieved more in 300 years of isolation than we did in 3,000 years of expansion." Daeho raised his hand hesitantly. "May I ask a question?" Myung nodded. "You may, young scholar. You came seeking truth. We respect that. Will you ever rejoin galactic civilization? Will you share your knowledge with us?" The two human representatives looked at each other. When Myung spoke again, her voice was gentle but firm. "When you're ready, when you've learned to stop measuring progress by conquest, when you value wisdom over power, when you can meet us as equals, not as subjects or threats, that day will come, but it may take centuries or millennia. We're patient. We've learned to think in long time spans. How will you know when we're ready?" Hyejin asked. "You'll know," Sora said simply. "And when you do, you'll find us waiting. Not as masters or enemies, but as friends who have walked the path before you." Delmar stood, his aged body moving slowly. "So what happens now? What are the terms of our coexistence?" "Simple terms," Myung said. "Earth's solar system is off limits. Don't send ships there. Don't study us from afar. Don't try to duplicate our technology. Live your lives, grow your civilizations, make your mistakes, and learn from them. We'll be here watching, hoping you'll choose a better path than we once did. And if we ignore these terms?" Admiral Cathrex asked quietly. "Then we'll defend ourselves," Jisoo said, appearing beside the other humans. "We disabled your fleet without harming anyone. That was a demonstration of restraint. But if you force our hand repeatedly, if you threaten our home or our people, we will respond more decisively. We don't want that. Neither should you." A young Tavarian representative stood up, his crest bright with curiosity rather than fear. "Can you at least tell us what happened? Why did humanity disappear? Where did you go?" Sora smiled warmly at him. "We didn't go anywhere. We've been on Earth the whole time, learning, growing, evolving. We solved the problems that plague you now. Scarcity, disease, conflict, death. We learned to work together as one species instead of fighting as separate nations. And we discovered technologies that made the old ways obsolete. It wasn't a single moment, but a gradual awakening that took centuries." "How many of you are there?" someone asked. "Enough," Myung said. "More than there were, fewer than there could be. We've chosen quality over quantity, wisdom over numbers. Every human alive today has chosen to be here, has earned their place through learning and growth." Mireille raised her hand timidly. "Are you still human? Or did you become something else?" "We're still human," Sora assured her. "We still laugh, cry, dream, and wonder. We still make mistakes and learn from them. We just do it on a different scale now. We're what humanity always had the potential to become, just as your species have potentials you haven't yet realized. Young-ho stepped forward, addressing the council directly. We're not here to threaten you or control you. We're here to explain that the galaxy is bigger than you think, that advancement comes in forms you haven't imagined, and that sometimes the wisest choice is to stop and think, rather than keep pushing forward blindly. The council deliberated for 3 days after the humans left. Daeho and his crew were kept in comfortable quarters, waiting to learn their fate. Finally, they were summoned back to the chamber. Delmar announced the decision. The conquered council has voted. Earth's solar system is hereby declared permanently off limits. No vessel, military or civilian, may enter that space for any reason. The penalties for violation will be severe. Furthermore, we will establish a new branch of study dedicated to philosophical and ethical advancement, guided by what we learned from humanity's example. He turned to Daeho. Young scholar, you sought truth and found more than you bargained for. The council has decided that you and your crew acted in the pursuit of knowledge, not malice. You are pardoned. Furthermore, you are appointed as the head of the new Institute for Civilizational Wisdom. Perhaps you can help us learn the lessons humanity tried to teach us. Daeho felt his heart skip a beat. It was an enormous responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity. He looked at Hyejin, who nodded encouragingly. Months passed. Life in the Conquered slowly returned to normal, though nothing was quite the same. The knowledge that humanity was watching, that they possessed unimaginable power but chose not to use it, changed how species related to each other. Wars became less common. Resources were shared more freely. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Daeho stood in his new office at the Institute, looking at the data from Earth. He had devoted his life to understanding what humanity had become and teaching others about the path they had chosen. It would take generations, maybe longer, but for the first time the Conquered was trying to grow in wisdom rather than just power. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. When Daeho opened it, he found a simple text from an untraceable source. We're proud of you, Daeho. Keep learning. Keep growing. Keep questioning. We'll be here when you're ready to talk as equals. Until then, remember, the strongest civilizations are those that could destroy but choose to create instead. Sora Daeho smiled and saved the message. Then he returned to his work, teaching a new generation about the species that had mocked the ancient warnings until Earth finally answered. And somewhere, on a beautiful blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, humanity continued their patient vigil, watching the younger species stumble and grow, ready to welcome them when they finally learned what it meant to be truly civilized. The warnings still broadcast into space, but now they carried a new addendum. Turn back. Do not disturb what sleeps. Do not test what waits. But know that we are here. Know that we remember you, and know that when you're ready, we'll be here to welcome you home.